Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Direct Insurance Podcast, otherwise known as DIP, brought to you by Insurance Advisors Direct. I'm your host. My name is Kelsey, and I am the Digital Marketing Assistant and Social Media Strategist for Insurance Advisors Direct. And today, my guest is Jason McClellan. He is the CEO and President of Insurance Advisors Direct. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, thanks, Kelsey. My name again, Jason McClellan with Insurance Advisors Direct. Just briefly, been in the insurance industry, life and health insurance since 1997, as an agent and played many roles throughout the industry over the last 25 years and began Insurance Advisors Direct about 11 years ago. We're a regional and in some cases with some products, a national FMO.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. So, we are here to talk about starting your own insurance business. So, if you have ever wanted to start your own business and you kind of just didn't really know what, if you kind of just felt like you have a need and a drive to help people, but you're not really sure quite what, it might actually be insurance. So, today we're going to be talking about getting started in the independent insurance agent business. So, Jason, answer this for me first. So, how are independent agents different from captive agents?
Well, I mean, there's once you get into the industry, you kind of understand, I guess, the differences between those two. I mean, to some degree, any agent who starts into the business, it's a commission, in most cases, commission-driven business. They're independent to some degree. You, in some cases, even as a captive agent, can set your own schedule. Now, some organizations maybe have certain degrees of captive, or they might have a different version of that, so to speak. But, most agents are fairly independent with their schedules when they're going out, when they're prospecting, when they're sitting down to, talk with those clients or future clients. And independent agents have some of that same freedom. A lot of it really comes down to the contracts they hold, who those contracts are with, how they're viewed at the carrier level with the different insurance companies. Are they a zero commission LOA type agent that's assigning their commissions to an agency, or are they receiving those commissions more directly from the carrier on a direct contract? So it's more so behind the scenes and once you get into the carrier. But, independent, captive, again, there's a lot of independence with both. It just kind of comes down to some of those situations.
Okay. Yeah, I've based on a lot of research that any normal person, just if they were to go to Google and say, hey, what's the difference between an independent and a captive agent? A lot of the responses that you'll get through Google are that the captive agent is usually like an employee of that carrier, typically, whereas an independent agent is not beholden to a single insurance company. So they have more of that like uncapped earning potential as opposed to a captive agent where if they are more of an employee of that company, they might be getting those, maybe they might be getting sales bonuses or commissions or whatever in that case like that. But typically from what anybody could find on the internet is that they'll say that, okay, if you're captive, you are an employee of this insurance company and that you get like the 9 to 5, your go-to schedule. Whereas like as an independent agent, you're more of a business owner. Like you are the salesperson that is responsible for connecting insurance policies for the consumer to the carriers.
Yeah. And, I guess to elaborate on that, there's different versions of even captive. So, you've got captive that might represent somebody who's working for a single carrier. And that carrier can have different structures of captive. Maybe they are more of an employee. Maybe they're even receiving some benefits. They're being maybe fed leads or participating in different programs that carrier happens to have. And you may be restricted to only sell those products. Then you have, other captive arrangements where you're working for more of an independent organization, but you're captive to that. But in many cases, you're still an independent contractor. You'll notice the contracts usually state that. And so you are captive to that organization, but usually free to roam amongst all of their products they may represent and sell. And there's different arrangements there too. I've seen some that are, a salary plus maybe incentives. There's some that's 100% commission. There's some that come with benefits, some that don't have benefits attached to them. You're truly an independent contractor. So even within the captive space, there's a number of different arrangements. And really, if somebody's getting into the industry and that's kind of their path, would be smart to investigate the different options out there.
I agree.
What comes with those? what fits for that agent, that person, their personality, what they want to grow it into, because there could be some, caps or limitations to what that might present to them in the future. And also, too, who owns that book of business. If they're writing that business for a carrier or for a captive agency, in many cases that agency or that carrier maintains ownership of that book of business. So there's a lot of different arrangements that really need to be looked into.
Yeah, perfect. What would you say are some, let's say, what are three benefits and then three caveats to being each an independent agent, and then more of just like maybe like the independent captive, we'll call it.
Most agents start their career in some sort of captive arrangement. Many cases, it's necessary because of the additional training and support and maybe mentorship that you might receive from that program. And usually, those platforms are designed for people who are brand new to getting into insurance, maybe not even licensed, maybe just even getting them through the licensing process, through whatever additional requirements are needed, certifications and so forth. So in many cases, there's really it's a good starting point for someone new to this industry if they're just getting started. Now, we do see agents that come to work with us that are brand new to insurance, but they want to start into the independent model. We have a platform that can really help someone to be nurtured and get into the even independent side as a new agent. In many cases, we see it more so on an agent who's coming from another industry. Maybe they're coming from life insurance or PNC or group or under 65, and they're interested in expanding into another product line or getting into Medicare. So we see that quite a bit. But a lot of times, again, a captive arrangement is important to getting somebody familiar with the industry. But again, partnering with a good FMO that has a very immersive platform that the people that you're working with have come from the field. They were agents themselves. They know what to kind of help, get you on that path and really work with you. And maybe they've got training platforms and, they've got selling systems and other things that you can quickly learn from and put to use. In some cases, we do see agents can be successful even starting off as an independent agent.
Okay, perfect. What would you say are three key personal characteristics that make a great independent agent?
Well, even just an agent in general, I think would be I think you could kind of lump those individuals together. I think in my early years used to think it was a certain type, that fit
Mm-hmm.
into the mold of being an agent, or being a salesperson. You think of those who are maybe a bit more outgoing, or you think of people who, are a little bit more polished and, can present and speak well. Maybe they have what somebody would classify as like the stereotypical
Yeah.
salesperson type personality. But I've learned over the years, I have seen many come into the industry, whether it be captive or independent, and all backgrounds, all walks of life, all experience levels, all personality types. And sometimes you quickly go, oh, well, they'll never make it. They just don't have the personality, or they're not right. And to be honest, I've seen all of those types of individuals succeed.
Yeah.
And I think it really comes down to the willingness to learn,
Mm-hmm.
the willingness to put their training and the education they receive from their agency, from their FMO into use. Those who aren't afraid to talk to people
Yeah.
and get out in the community and develop relationships. So there's a lot that goes into it. But I would say it's just more the willingness to go to work.
Yeah.
I've seen very, very extremely successful salespeople even fail at insurance because the freedom really was too much for them to handle. They weren't so accountable to themselves. They were great salespeople when they put their mind to it and they were out there. It was hard to compete with even some at that level, but they just didn't have that hard work, spirit. They weren't organized. They weren't willing to go out and put in the hours and even the months and years that it takes to really build up a good, a healthy client base. And, and they eventually maybe exited the industry. And then I've seen those who are more quiet, a little bit more reserved, maybe not the person who you think, is out there selling to someone, and they just went to work and they did it every single day and they did it for months and years and became extremely successful. So I think it's just the willingness to go work hard.
Yeah, I agree. I think that a lot of people too will even confuse the difference between somebody who's maybe like an introvert with an extrovert. Like, oh, well, you're so extroverted, you would be so good at doing this.
Hmm.
When in reality, like the difference between being an introvert and an extrovert doesn't necessarily have to do with your willingness or ability to be able to be really outgoing or whether you're more reserved. It really has a lot more to do with how you draw your energy. So typically people who are quote unquote more like extroverted will draw their energy from being around other people, especially on like a really busy day.
Hmm.
If someone who is more extroverted on a really busy day, they still want to like go out, go be around people, talk to people, and do whatever else. And then people who are a little bit more introverted, they're like, okay, I'm gonna go sit in the corner and read a book because that's just like they draw their energy just from being a little bit more alone. But it doesn't have really anything to do though with their ability to be able to be outgoing.
Hmm.
So I mean, I can even use my husband as an example. He's very introverted in the sense of that's how he draws his energy, but he doesn't have an issue with putting himself out there and like talking to people and having a conversation with someone. He's not like sitting there cowering in the corner, like that's a little bit different. But I'm glad that you touched on being self-motivated because I think that that's something that's really important to point out because there are lots of really great salespeople that can say like, oh well, they could perform really, really well, have really great sales numbers, insert whatever here. But it's really about the ability to be your own boss.
Hmm.
And if you don't have somebody that's telling you to clock in at 9 o'clock every day and clocking out every day at 5 o'clock, if you can't be your own self boss, I think
Hmm.
that's really where the relationship between the agent and their business really might come to falter is because
Yeah.
if they're not motivated enough to be able to come up with their own business plan and be motivated in understanding what it is that they want, what production numbers that they want to get to, and really truly how many people that they want to help. If they can't really sort of like outline that for themselves and then make that business plan and then be willing to go out there and chase it, that's what I feel like is a huge, like, I guess in my opinion, like a characteristic between somebody who would make an independent agent versus someone that might be like a carrier captive agent. Like if they have to
Hmm.
report to a desk every day and between 9 and 5, they might be a great salesperson. They might do absolutely wonderful being on the phones, but they obviously might not be the same type of person that would perform well owning their own business.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where I do in many cases put the captive and independent, agent who would be successful in each of those areas as sometimes one and the same because in many cases, even a captive agent has that same freedom and flexibility. They may set their own schedule. Same with an independent agent. Usually, an independent agent has some sort of base and some sort of understanding and has done it for some time. So
Yeah.
they've proven a level of success. Captives, in some cases, that might be their first day out there. They still have to have that same hard work, spirit, mentality. They might see other agent friends of theirs who've been doing it for a while, taking a weekend off or midweek going golfing or doing other fun things. And they might think, hey, that's what's part of this industry. But usually those persons work towards that.
Yeah.
That's something that they've earned over many years. And you can't just start off that way.
Yeah.
But now there are some captive positions, and this is why I say, hey, look into what opportunities are out there because there are some captive positions that do not give you maybe that same flexibility. They might say, yes, you're going to be sitting here in our call center or walk-in center or somewhere very specific, 9 to 5, or whatever that schedule happens to be. And for some, that's just what they need. They need someone to tell them to be there, and this is the job, and here's the steps you go through, and they just kind of do that on a day-to-day basis. And usually those positions don't come with as much opportunity because they're doing most of the work for you.
Yeah.
You're literally just doing the steps. Usually when you get into kind of the positions, whether it be captive or independent, where there's more of that freedom and flexibility, those are usually commission based only. So the opportunities are tremendous.
Yeah.
That income ceiling is way up there, and in some cases doesn't exist at all. Earning potential is unlimited, but you have to be able to
Yeah.
be organized and be willing to put in the work and the time, and it takes many years.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. I also think that it's one of the things that I wrote down here that I think is very important to note is being able to bounce back from difficult situations or even clients or customers. I
mhm.
mean, because how many times have you had someone that maybe was a potential lead and, somebody that had told you, like, oh, yeah, like, no, I would really love to purchase like a Medicare policy from you. And
Mhm.
then you just never hear from them again. Like, they just completely ghosted you. It was like a bad date went wrong. And you're just kind of sitting there like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah,
Like, it
yeah,
takes a lot of that. It takes that huge ability to be able to just say, like, okay, like, thank you, next, like, and
sure.
just keep moving on.
Yeah, no, I mean, sales can be an emotional roller coaster. And for some people, that's why it's just not a good industry or field in general. Maybe just sales in general is not good for somebody and their emotional makeup. It's there's lots of highs, there's lows. You have to work through both of them. When it's high, you can't just say, "Hey, this is easy," and it's because it will change.
Yeah.
It could change tomorrow, it could change next week. You're going to have those down days, weeks where you're doing nothing but prospecting. You're not getting any sales. Maybe some cancellations come through. I mean, there's just a whole host of things, and they usually come in waves. So, yeah, it definitely takes somebody who can, weather those storms and continue on and just keep at it.
Yeah.
So,
I think that kind of goes the same for pretty much any business too. I mean, in pretty much any industry, because I mean,
right.
obviously, like our world is so uncertain, and especially even in the last 3 years, we've all really kind of come to this understanding of that nothing is ever promised,
Hmm.
and there are certainly opportunities for growth, but then there are certainly places in certain industries too where even like one small droplet that creates this ripple effect starts toppling things over.
Hmm.
But one of the things I actually kind of wanted to read here was I actually was on a Facebook group and I was kind of doing a little bit of prospecting myself. Came across a post from an agent in this networking group, and the agent's name was Matt. I did ask his permission to be able to use this material.
Okay.
And he shared his very inspiring message that I thought was perfect for this. And it read, "New agents/struggling agents. If you're thinking about throwing in the towel, please do not give up. We all know that this industry is not for everyone, but if you have a heart to serve others and the character and the work ethic to match, you will make it. I've been in the industry for 7 years and have been extremely blessed with what this career has provided for my family. But I almost failed and quit my first year and my second year and my third year.
Hmm.
But if it weren't for my wife and support system, I wouldn't have made it to the other side of the tunnel. Don't struggle alone and reach out to someone." I'll leave you with this cheesy motivational quote: "Don't let yesterday's failure define you. Let them refine you, and have a great day." And I was so taken with that. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is so true." Like, you
Hmm.
can't let all of the negativity or just like anything that bad that happens within your business, like you just got to keep like rolling with the punches and just keep going. Like, if you have the willingness to do it and if it's something that you truly want to do and continue
Hmm.
to do, then you'll find a way to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I'm glad to hear Matt had stuck it out,
Yeah.
and now is seeing that success, and that's awesome. And there's a lot of those stories, and we're always excited to hear those and share those. And he also obviously went through that, and as many of us and all of us have, those first couple years can be tough.
Yeah.
I've seen some agents come in, they hit a home run and, never had some of those initial struggles. But most agents you'll see, especially in the Medicare space, when you're trying to build up your renewals, you're trying to build your book of business, you're trying to get to a point where it's feeding the business itself with referrals and other, types of leads, it usually takes 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And for some individuals, maybe they're not in a financial position, or maybe their family's not in a financial position that they can, stick it out through those years. And, that's okay. Those sometimes it's not the person's fault. Maybe it's just circumstances. Maybe it's not the right time. But yeah, those who can weather those first few years, as Matt said, it can be a tremendous opportunity and to stick it out.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, how many agents would you say start off in the industry with even still having like either a full-time job or a part-time job on
yep.
top of being an insurance agent just while they're trying to build up their referrals?
Yeah. Now, again, it takes a person that's willing to still put in those extra hours,
Yeah.
because, even that part time job, we've seen a number of, police officers, firefighters, those in the medical field where maybe they don't have a traditional 9 to 5, 5 day a week type schedule, where they might have 2 or 3 days in a row where they're off. And this can be a great career.
Yeah.
And I've seen many of those individuals transition to insurance full time. I've seen them retire from those other fields and then continue on with insurance. I've seen individuals who retired from a full time job and decided, well, I'm going to get into insurance. I don't need the income necessarily. to pay my bills. But I know one couple, they got into it because they wanted this to be their vacation fund.
Yeah.
And now it's more than a full-time career, and they've had tremendous success from it. So yeah, I mean, don't be afraid if this isn't can't be your full-time job. Now, again, you have to be disciplined, and those days that are available, you have to put those to work
Yeah.
for you and for the career. But absolutely, it can be somebody who maybe gets involved part-time.
Awesome. Okay. But yeah, so okay, let's go ahead and start digging into the meat and potatoes of getting started with insurance. So say you're someone who is a brand new agent. You're like, you know what, I am just going to take this career opportunity head on. Like, what are the first things that somebody would need to do?
Well, there's a lot to do, but I mean, if you're going to get into insurance, first you're going to have to go get your life and health insurance license. You may at that time want to decide if you want to incorporate other lines of insurance. You've got your PNC. I know some of our agents expand that into some of the securities products with series licenses. But if you want to keep it simple, again, you don't want to overdo it. You can't overwhelm yourself because there's a lot to learn, and you have to kind of decide what you feel is the greatest opportunity that you're getting involved with. We are an organization that works strictly in the life and health space. We have a lot of other, licensed agents that come to us from other industries, but, they're coming to us for those life and health products
Yeah.
and to work with our in-house specialists. But yeah, you're going to have to decide roughly what your path is. If it's life and health, go get your life and health license. Once you've passed, then get involved with an organization that can help guide you from there. Next, you're going to want to consider, and there may be some business building tips that you're going to want to pick up, and a good organization can kind of steer you there. You don't need to overthink it. I know I'll have individuals that want to come in, and the first thing they want to do is spend all their time on logos and business names, and filing those with the state and
Yeah.
getting trademarks, and you can overdo it. That's not going to start getting you into the industry or helping you to become successful. Now, at some point, and maybe early on, it's important to think through those things, but those aren't the most critical or most important. I would say getting involved with an organization that can get you trained
Yeah.
on some of the core product lines and products or carriers that you're initially wanting to get involved with. Then the next would be, okay, how do I now start to engage with and network with my community? Who do I go talk to? Do some of these organizations have lead sources? Can they get you involved in some of those lead and prospecting programs? Can they help you organize kind of your business plan? And execute? Can they help get you involved with marketing yourself and your products, even doing just very simple stuff that can put you in front of people, and just show up, and then as you start to gain some experience, making sure that organization has the ability to grow and continue to be a partner into new products, new carriers, new levels of success that you might have achieved. Really, I think just getting started is the key. Yeah, that's where I would tell someone to leave it, get that license, and then find a great partner.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things that I think I found a lot, especially going through Facebook groups and a lot of the stuff when people are kind of getting started in the industry, a lot of people will ask, like, hey, who should I partner with? What should I be looking for? And a lot of the times, what people are looking for in regards to like these business relationships with other FMOs or IMOs is really just like the one-on-one training, the one-on-one coaching, having someone who's truly going to take you in under their wing and really show you the ropes of the business, and having an office staff or an administrative staff that is responsive and kind and friendly. And that's something that I've heard from quite a few of our agents that they really do truly enjoy about working with us, is that they're like, I always get the response that I need in the time that I need it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, okay, let's go ahead and give ourselves a nice little pat
Sure.
on the back there.
Well, and yeah, and I mean to, I guess, plug us for a moment. We do a great job. Our team does a great job, and the structure of our organization as, yes, an FMO, but we're kind of a hybrid. We call ourselves a full service FMO, and the reason behind that is because when I was leaving another large national organization and starting Insurance Advisors Direct, I realized there was a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah.
Within that FMO IMO model. And you really saw where individuals had to come in, They had to make a business decision. Do I throw my hat in the ring with this captive organization? Do I throw my hat in the ring with this independent organization? But can they really help me to become successful? And I'm so new. And in many cases, the answer was no. So you had the other option, which was going captive. Or let's say you were an agent who already had a book of business, but it was in some other product line. Maybe you were an under 65 health insurance producer and you wanted to expand into Medicare. Well, the only way to get the true education, training, sales tools, and other technology and platforms to become successful is you almost had to become captive. Well, that doesn't work for somebody who's already out there,
Yeah.
already has a book of business, has already created, a stream of income. So we really built kind of a bridge between the captive and the the FMO model, and became a full service FMO where we incorporate a lot of the training and tools and one-on-one experience that you'll get in a captive setting, but you can do it in an independent role with independent contracts. They're
Yeah.
direct with the carriers. And then, of course, we've built a whole system and program and platform for agents to, participate again in a lot of that what you might call captive type feeling and relationship, but you can do it with an independent contract that gives you more commissions, gives you more freedom. So really, you're not giving anything up, and you can start building your business on a platform that's going to help you grow, but without those limitations, caps, and with, again, losing some control and ownership of your book of business. You definitely want to maintain that because that's what you come in and you work hard for.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, so one of the things that I find that was really important for anyone in regards to finding a FMO or an IMO or someone to partner with in regards to that is really the training and the education. Because I've always found that passion and product knowledge is what leads to success. Because if you're passionate about something, you want to learn more about it. And then the more that you learn about it, the more passionate that you become about it. And then that's when you really want to start sharing that knowledge that you've learned and that you've sought out, and being able to share that with other people. So would you agree that, quote unquote, the most successful agents are very knowledgeable and are just very passionate about what they do?
I mean, a good agent, yeah. There are certainly some that skate by with very limited
Yeah.
knowledge, and they just kind of are either they're aggressive or they're, your stereotypical, salesperson. But really, to become successful in this industry, you don't have to be that slick salesperson.
Yeah.
You have to be educated. You have to be an educator.
Yeah.
It's not so much about sales these days. It's about educating individuals, helping them to understand maybe what coverage options they have, what coverage they have with Medicare, what other solutions are available to them to give them more benefits or to add to their Medicare benefits, or other solutions that might speak to a concern of theirs, or maybe something specific to their family arrangement, or those different stages of their life that they're concerned about. Agents obviously have to be prepared. They have to have access to products. They have to have access to knowledge and training. And that's, again, where a good FMO brings those solutions to you, brings that education, brings that training, brings a portfolio of products. Yeah, it's really just about educating people, and bringing to them solutions that they know they have a concern or an issue, or that they have, holes in coverage that they need to have filled. So yeah, it's not so much about sales. We call ourselves salespeople. There's a little bit of selling involved, but for the most part, it's just being a great educator.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, I tell our agents all the time that are, enrolled in the Marketing Advisors Direct program with the social media marketing, is that you should be spending 50% of your time educating your online audience. And then the other like 30% should be showcasing you, your personal brand, your company culture, and just really showing people who you are. And then the other like 20% is the selling. Because obviously in today's world, there are so many scams that are out nowadays, and people are very, very they're clinging tight to their money, because obviously with the state of the market, how it is now, there are so many people that have reduced disposable income, just like the price of gas and everything. It all comes into play. So people are very, very timid to wanting to work with a salesperson or an agent, especially someone that they don't know, unless it does come as a referral, which, obviously, that most referrals are more likely to purchase because it comes as a recommendation from someone else that they trust. But when you are developing your personal brand online, or even if you're doing it through other forms of advertising like billboards or newspaper ads, whatever the case may be, you're able to better develop a relationship with a potential client by just showing them who you are, what you know, and how what you do is going to provide that person with value.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Let's actually jump into contracting. So
Mhm.
how now that you're licensed, you're certified, you've got your E&O insurance, all that other jazz. Now you're ready to start contracting. How would somebody go about that? If even if so, let's go ahead and say that they're not partnered with an FMO. How would they go about that? And then what would that process look like if they're contracted through an FMO?
Well, sometimes if, again, if you're choosing to go the captive route, that organization is going to help take you through those steps, that process with the carriers available to you or that they're telling you to sign up with. Or if it's a carrier themselves, they're going to make sure that you're employed and contracted to sell their products. If you're independent, you're going to want to either decide again which product lines you're trying to bring in and to represent, and maybe get some recommendations, whether it be from other agents that maybe you've met, or go to an event and maybe chat with other professionals, find out what carriers would make the most sense. And in many cases FMOs can make those suggestions too. And you're going to want to make sure, now you can go to some carriers direct. Some carriers, as an independent agent, they might have a platform for that. You're going to miss out on many benefits that you would receive, maybe being aligned with a good FMO, but you can go direct. And then you can also choose the path of going to an FMO or an MGA or some other organization that can facilitate those contracts. And essentially, the contract is simple. It's there's a few documents to sign. It gets sent back in. In our situation as an FMO, our licensing team would process that. They'd make sure you have all the requirements, insurance, certifications, whatever else might be required. They'll send those to the carrier. The carrier will process those. They'll appoint you with the state, and then they'll send back notification of your appointment with your writing number. And it's a pretty simple, clean process. It just, again, kind of depends on which place you want to play ball.
Yeah.
Are you going captive? Are you going independent? Are you trying to get direct with the carrier? Or do you want to have an FMO partner facilitate that?
If there's an independent agent that is contracting either through an FMO or if they're just doing it directly, if they are contracting with one carrier in particular, do they need multiple contracts for one line of business?
Well, you want to be smart. We had a meeting this morning about that, and talking about agents that pick up multiple carriers and contracts. Those carriers and those contracts, they're not going to bring you more business
Yeah.
in most cases. So you want to be smart, especially if you're just getting started. Sometimes it's better to keep things simple.
hmm
Pick up a couple of good carriers within the product lines you want to represent, understand those carriers, learn their products, learn their benefits, and go to work. As you encounter different circumstances, different clients and prospects that have different needs, or you need to reach out to a carrier for something very specific, maybe it's for underwriting needs, maybe it's for a product line they specialize in, then you can add to your offerings. But I wouldn't offer 5 to 6 to 10 products right off the bat. Some agents do that. They come in and you ask them which carriers they're interested in. They check the box on every single one.
Yeah.
Well, we then help guide them to the ones that make the most sense. So I would say once you've decided what product lines you're going to immerse yourselves in, then get some recommendations, talk to other professionals in the insurance industry, talk to an FMO, even talk to some of the carriers and find out what products, what carriers would be the ones to get started with first. And sometimes that depends on your geographic area. Sometimes it depends on opportunities that might be more immediate or might be coming in the near future. So there's a number of different reasons that might factor into that. But yeah, it's I would keep it simple. Just pick up a couple key carriers.
Okay. So after you've contracted with maybe two or three carriers and you're really like starting to learn and develop those different product lines, maybe you're going out there and you're starting to really market yourself. What do you think are the three forms of lead generation or marketing that they should start off with first?
The three forms of marketing.
So it's just like lead generation in general. Like if they're going out there to promote themselves, they really just want to get their personal brand out there and saying like, hey, I sell insurance now. What do
Yeah.
you find would be important for, or three key marketing strategies or marketing tactics, I should say, for a newer agent, especially starting off in 2023?
It's a tough one to answer because there's so many ways you
Yeah.
can market yourself. There's so many different forms of leads and advertising and branding. And, obviously we have a whole division that helps do that for agents. But I feel like it's even just as simple as mentioning it to your family and friends. Now,
Yeah.
I know some old businesses that was kind of, you'd come in with a whole list of your family members or friends, and that was your first target list, and that's how you prospect, and you called them and you hustled them for insurance. And it's good to let them know.
Yeah.
And you may hand out some business cards. Obviously we create logos and do a lot of branding and business card building for agents, so it's important to have that look professional, and you're at least going to want to let people know.
Yeah.
You'd hate to hear from a family member or friend that says, "Oh, I wish I would have known. I just bought life insurance. Or
Yeah.
I just purchased this. If I'd only known." So make people aware and maybe let them know. I tend to find that when people hear I'm in the insurance industry, all of a sudden they have a million questions. They need help and they need guidance. So there's obviously a need out there. People
Yeah.
have a need, and if they know you and they trust you, then I think that's a good starting point. You can do simple things like most people are on Facebook. We obviously know you can get extremely detailed and complicated with social media advertising, but
Yeah.
maybe do something simple. Take the picture of that business card, put it on Facebook and just say, "Hey, I've started a new career and I'm helping individuals with life and health insurance," or whatever it might be. If you need any assistance or would like a consultation or would like to, a friend or family that would need something, please think of me. That's at least letting that platform work for you.
Yeah.
You don't always just have to read articles and look at pictures. So, I think doing simple stuff like that, getting involved in the community. I know some that will join like the Chamber of Commerce or maybe some of those networking groups. There's nothing wrong with those, or putting yourself in a position and working with some referral sources. I think those are some of the better ones when you're first getting started, is just talking to people, and letting them help to drive, some interest to your products and your services. So yeah, and then once you get beyond, I mean, you could do simple stuff too, like direct mail is still a pretty popular way. There's a lot of internet leads. I mean, there's a whole host of services that didn't exist back when I got started into
Yeah.
insurance. So there's almost so many different ways that you could get in front of people, but those would be some of the more basic ones. The other thing I would recommend is if you're working with a good FMO partner, we always have different types of lead sources.
Yeah.
We, in many cases, have a healthy batch of leads sitting there that we can even assign out to some agents to help get them started. Or maybe we have events or other things that the carriers have asked us to, satisfy. We can, start to plug some of those new agents into those events that will become feeder events for them too. So, again, you certainly should be thinking about ways that you can build your business and get your name and your services in front of people, but don't hesitate to ask those partners. That's part of their job too. They
Yeah.
know the business, they have access to many of those solutions, and having them put you into those solutions. Now you got to be willing to go, and sometimes it's not always convenient. Sometimes it's, I hear the question all the time, well, would it make sense? Is this going to be worth my time? Just depends.
Yeah.
You're doing something better with your time that's putting you in front of more people, maybe not. But if you've got nothing going and you're brand new, yeah, you should be everywhere.
Yeah.
If something comes your way, if an offer is made for you to attend an event, be an agent of the day somewhere, or do something else, be there. Be willing to participate in those. Even if that day not much comes from it, and the willingness to be there, you'll see more of those opportunities come your way. And in many cases, you'll find that in the future, those events will start to produce opportunities. So yeah, those would be some of the, initial few things I could recommend.
Okay, perfect. I agree. I'm 110% always full in-person networking events, or even like online networking through social media groups. Like LinkedIn has some great social media groups, especially if you're a Medicare agent looking to network with other maybe like industry professionals or maybe even other business owners, and maybe they're needing group retiree medical or whatever the case may be. Just kind of like putting your name out there. You're not, most of the time you don't even have to do any like selling. It's like just letting them know that you exist. Because if there's no one else that business owner can think of that can help them, they're like, oh, well, hey, I did see this one guy on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or TikTok for all, you know?
No, there's so many different platforms now. And actually, it was funny in one of our morning sales meetings. We had someone who's been doing this. He's trained tens of thousands of agents across the country on lead generation and how to best, get the best results from leads, and what are leads, and how to work leads, and how to generate referrals. And we were just talking about some of these things this morning, and there's just so many sources. So actually what we're doing to help simplify things, and I guess this speaks more to maybe a newer agent audience, is we're producing like a whole initial engagement, initial lead opportunities, ideas. You don't have to go down the path of a full sophisticated marketing strategy like some do, which when you get there, that's great. That's important, but just some of the basics. And, once you start listing those out, I mean, there's really 20, 30 different ways you could market or different individuals and ways you could get in front of them. So I would say just sit down and look at a list like that. We can provide you one and, look at two or three that makes the most sense that you think you can tackle right away.
Hmm.
And then, go after it or utilize a good partner like us to help you to set yourself up to get into those marketing opportunities.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there is a lot that is to be said about making sure that you have the right plan, but then also making sure that you're able to execute that plan because it's attainable. I know that there are so many people that will set like super, super high goals for production and then will feel really down on themselves when they don't meet those goals by like a landslide just because they were like the original goals were unattainable. I mean, for somebody who's maybe brand new to the industry, they're like, oh, I'm going to make $100,000 my first year. And it's like, granted, yeah, there are some people that do that, but most people don't. And that's not to say that it's impossible, but it's not the most attainable. So making sure that agents are setting those really attainable goals in things that are just realistic for them.
Sure.
As long as you're realistic with yourself and your abilities to be able to do things, I think that that's overall very important in order to succeed in any industry, any business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's important. You have to sit down. You have to think about your goals, write those out. We also do a lot of goal setting with agents, and we'll try our best. Even though they're independent, we'll try to hold them accountable. We'll work with them. Hey, you're a little bit off. What's going on? Is there something we can do to help? Is there an area you're struggling in? Can we bring some assistance? So, again, having a good partner, I think, and mentor can really help. But you just have to align yourself properly to get that, and you have to be proactive too. Sometimes we have agents that will call and say, hey, why haven't you helped me get to this new level of success? Well, what did you do?
Yeah.
You didn't
I
reach
sat
out
there and
to
I
us.
manifested it.
Yeah, you didn't ask for help. We're not just, we can't be in your head at all times. We do our best to create these, platforms and really work shoulder to shoulder with our agents to help them attain that success. But if we don't know you're struggling,
Yeah.
if we don't know you need that help, if we don't know that you didn't even sit down to prepare and plan, I mean, that's on you too. If this is going to be your business. So we do our best, but yeah, you need to take some of those initial steps, and then certainly a good partner can help, again, hold you accountable, work with you, and do a lot to help encourage that, that success.
Yes, I definitely think that an accountability partner is a very large step for any agent or any person who's owning their own business in whatever industry.
Mm-hmm.
Because at a certain point, like you do need somebody to either like be your cheerleader. You need somebody who's going to be there and be like, okay, how many calls did you make today? How
Mm-hmm.
many networking events did you go to this week? What did you do? And like really sit there and help you and help hold you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many times that I had experienced something similar in my life where I just needed somebody to just be like, hey, even if it's like a diet and exercise weight loss plan, somebody that's like, hey, did you go to the gym this week? Or how many meals did you meal prep? Or how many times did you sneak off to Taco Bell?
Sure.
It's things like that. And I think that everybody needs that person, not necessarily to like hold their hand along the way, because I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that if you're a business owner and you're that person that's self-driven, you are not the person that's out here looking for somebody to hold your hand the entire way
Mm-hmm.
through your business. It's just not realistic. But everybody now again just needs that little
Yeah,
push. They need that
absolutely.
little pat on the back, and they need somebody to be like, "Hey, you're capable. Go get it."
Oh, yeah. And that never stops. I mean, certainly there's more of that needed, I think, early on in your career. But I mean, we talk to agents all the time that I've known and worked with for 25 plus years, and they're successful. They've been doing this. They know, they know tremendous amount about insurance, but they say, hey, sometimes I just need someone to call me,
Yeah.
and give me that little encouragement, give me that nudge, hold me accountable. Because sometimes it gets tiring. These independent agents, they're on their own, they work for themselves. Many of those responsibilities kind of land squarely on their shoulders.
Yeah.
So to have a good partner to sometimes I pick up the phone and they just vent And
Yeah.
that's all they needed for that week.
Hmm.
They wanted to vent, and now they can feel better about the next day and have a more productive week. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's all we're here for.
Yeah, I
So,
definitely think that having someone just to vent to and just somebody who understands as well. I mean, I obviously I've never been an insurance agent, but I was in sales for a good 10 years, and every now and again I would just have like my one-on-ones with my managers every month, and most of the time we wouldn't even like go over like my performance. It would
hmm
just be me like word vomiting like all of the things that were frustrating me over the last month, and just like,
hmm
oh well, this is why, like, no, I wasn't able to attain this number. I really wish that I could have done this differently. Like, this is where I feel like I needed better support with this. And it essentially, sometimes it's like you're coming up with your own business plan and coming up with your own solutions
hmm
just by going over all of the things that were like stressing you out in the last week or so, or even like the last month, and just kind of getting it all out and just emotionally dumping is a great way to just look at what's left on the floor, pick up the pieces, and just be motivated to
hmm
move on to the next steps.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So, in your opinion, what would be the best time for a newer agent after they've gone through all of their certifications, licenses, they've got their contracts? At what point is then when they should start deciding on like a business name or like a DBA and start developing like a logo, business cards, and then having an email address, whether it be like through a Gmail, a Yahoo, or maybe they have their own email domain? What portion of the business process, or at what stage do you feel
hmm
like that those are those important steps to take if somebody is really starting to wanting to take this career seriously?
Well, I think a lot of that can be done pretty quickly, and most of it at the same time.
Yeah.
Let's say you're studying, you're going to take your exam, you're getting your license. I mean, hey, you're not going to be doing that 24/7, so there's plenty of time to think through. Hey, how would I want to brand myself? What kind of name do I just want to use my last name plus insurance services, or do I want to come up with something more creative? I mean, you can do that stuff pretty quickly, and again, we even do branding for our agent partners. We design logos. We can help them with names. It depends how far you want to take it. Do you actually want to take it to an attorney? Do you want to set up an LLC? In most cases, independent agents do not have to have an agency or an LLC. You can have the commissions paid directly to you. For tax purposes, your CPA, and that could be taken care of pretty easily. So you don't need to take it too far if you're concerned about expenses.
Hmm.
Maybe going to an attorney and spending a couple $1,000s to set up an LLC isn't practical, but certainly it's something you should think through. Is that something important to you? Is it something you're concerned about? Is it something that you can afford to do?
Hmm.
Then that's fine too. I've seen agents that have been operating for years and years, and literally it's their name plus insurance, and that's what's on their business cards. They may still use a Yahoo or a Hotmail. I mean, Gmail is more popular these days. Or again, we can help you get set up with an actual personalized URL and email address. So
Yeah.
it just really depends on how far you want to take it and what's important to you. It doesn't, in my opinion, create, no matter how much thought and how much effort you put into that, that is not going to determine your level of success.
Yeah.
That's based on other factors. That's based on the work you put in, the consistency, and so forth. So don't overthink it. But certainly it's things you should be thinking about, because this is going to be a long-term career. Okay, how does it look the first 6 to 12 months? But how do I want it to look in 24,
Yeah.
36 months? But don't overthink it. Just get started. I started in insurance. I just had my license. I had a couple contracts, and I just went and sold. So
Sometimes it's all you got to
you
do,
don't have to have all of those answers before you can go be successful and sell.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because even when I started freelancing in my own business in the beauty industry, I started off with really just like my name, and like I kind of just like had like one of my girlfriends, it like called me like my business name, and I was like, oh, okay, that would be kind of cute. And then I was weary about even changing my name on my social media platforms like Instagram or even like Snapchat, Facebook, or even starting like a Facebook business page. And at the time I didn't, because I was scared of things like not working out correctly. I was like, well, what if I change my name on social media and things don't work out? and having those really self-limiting beliefs. And I'm sitting now here just like kicking myself in the bum because now the social media handle that I want is taken by somebody else and I'm really mad. But so, and I think to myself, I'm like, what if I had just not had those self-limiting beliefs? And if I had just really taken the emotional investment in myself, what would that look like? And what would the business today then look like? I mean, granted, at the end of the day, it's not like it's the end of the world. Like, people will still follow me on social media. They'll still call me, contact me, whichever way is like on my business cards or on my social media platforms. At the end
Mhm.
of the day, it's not that big of a deal. It's more
Right.
that their willingness to want to work with me. But at the same time, I really wish, looking back, hindsight being 2020, that I really wish that I would have just taken the full investment into myself and not let myself be afraid of all the what ifs and, just kind of leaving that all in the past and
Hmm.
really just taking the drive to move forward.
Hmm. Yep. No, absolutely. I mean, hey, we never have all the answers up front. We're all learning. We learn from other successful people around us. We can learn from other partners that have gone through it and can help give some guidance. But let's face it, we're not going to do it right the first time.
Yeah.
And it's all about just, again, being willing to learn, being willing to try and put one foot in front of the other. And, eventually you'll find yourself down that path and hopefully it's a successful one.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, shoot, even what movie is it where he's talking about like, oh, like Disney World, nothing worked right. I think it was Jurassic Park,
Oh, really?
where the guy, he was sitting there talking about how he was like, oh yeah, like when Disney World first opened, nothing worked. I don't even know if that's actually true or not.
I saw those movies. I don't remember that, but yeah,
Oh
I'm
goodness.
I'm sure they had their trials too.
Well, they did. They got eaten by dinosaurs. Spoiler for anybody that's never seen the Jurassic Park movies. But so let's go ahead and jump back really quickly over to your personal branding. So something that is important to me when I'm kind of like working with different agents in regards to social media and just like branding, marketing in general, is your personal brand. So for me, your personal brand kind of encompasses, again, like who you are, what you do, and how what you do provides your consumer with value. But I think it also has a lot to do with just what your consumer is going to be getting when they meet with you. Are you the type of person who's going to show up in a three-piece suit at their door and, sit down at their kitchen table with them and,
Mhm.
just be this like really upscale professional person? Or are you the person that's going to show up at their door in board shorts and flip-flops and be making margaritas with them in their kitchen while
Yeah.
you're going through their Medicare planning? So as in my opinion, it's making sure that like your personal brand and who your advertisements, what your advertisements look like online or even out in like in print advertising, like
Yeah.
newspapers or billboards,
Sure.
is having that match once someone meets you. How important to you as an agent and then now as a business owner, how important to you is branding?
Well, yeah, I mean, branding is extremely important. I would say to your point about, how you present yourself, the image you choose to portray. I would say be yourself. Don't try to become someone or
Yeah.
something else. But you also have to be approachable and you have to be someone that audience is willing to do business with. There's certain communities too. I would say you have to kind of play to the community, the people in that community, what they're used to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want to show up in board shorts and flip flops, yeah, I'm sure there's some islands,
Yeah.
and there's some parts of the country that maybe that would be appropriate, and that's great, if that. But then there's places that would be inappropriate.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's certain levels of meetings and types of people. And depending on the business you're trying to attract, you would never get that kind of business maybe with that image. But it does work. And, there's other communities, we have agents that work in different communities that you're encouraged to dress down a bit. Maybe a suit wouldn't be appropriate. It would stand out in the wrong way. Maybe in some cases, a meeting, it would be appropriate to have a suit on or at least a jacket on. I think most of our agents, and I think people have become a bit more casual
Yeah.
especially since COVID.
We've
But
embraced the soft life.
yeah, I mean, you wouldn't show up in your pajamas, but
Yeah.
I think, to wear a pair of jeans and a button down or maybe a golf shirt,
Yeah.
I think has become very appropriate for most industries. So, again, you might want to be careful being too extreme in any one
Yeah.
direction, but certainly branding, certainly your image is extremely important. I mean, people will see you and they will judge.
Oh yeah,
And
100%.
if they're expecting to work with a professional and you do not look like a professional at all,
Hmm.
you might have lost a potential sale.
Yeah.
Sure, maybe your knowledge and maybe your hard work could overcome that, but maybe now you're fighting an uphill battle because they've already mentally made a decision.
Yeah.
So this business is difficult enough. I wouldn't do things to make it more difficult.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would say to that.
Hmm. I also do think too that because there are so many more people that, obviously since COVID have embraced more, like I said, the soft life. And I think that there are a lot of people too that there used to be this persona or this stereotypical image of an insurance agent. And that I would say, like, nowadays that the image doesn't really stand so much anymore. We have agents from all walks of life that are,
Hmm.
range from goofy and eccentric and just like really outgoing to really like quiet and reserved, but still like very professional. And there are all kinds of people that are somewhere in between.
Hmm.
And I think that a lot of people will try to fit themselves into one of those two boxes because they think that they have to be at one end of the extreme or the other.
Hmm.
Because they think that like, oh well, no one's going to want to work with me if I don't show up in a three-piece suit. And then they're going to be the other people that are like, oh well, nobody's going to want to work with me if I look too stiff. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be a client for everyone. And
Hmm.
as long as your target audience aligns with your personal brand, I think that that's really where most of the success comes from in your selling. As a salesperson myself, I always
Hmm.
found that the best sales and the best relationships that I had with clients was when I was just myself and I would just like start off with like, oh my gosh, hey, I really like your shoes. Where did you get those? And just
Hmm.
kind of like starting off with like a genuine connection. Being able to showcase who I was by just being like, hey, if you don't need this stuff right now, that's fine. You don't need it right now. You can always come back when you do need it. I was never the person to want to push someone into something that they didn't need,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, that just meant that either they were going to have buyer's remorse and then either feel really nervous about coming back to the store and shopping with me, or they were just going to return it altogether. And so at the end of the day, that didn't really benefit me. So I found that the best way for me to be able to make meaningful, genuine connections with people and being able to get them to fall in love with the products that I was selling them was just by being knowledgeable, being truthful, not being overly pushy, and just leaving the rest to them. Like at the end of the
Hmm.
day, it's their money and it's their decision,
Hmm.
and I can't force someone into making a buying decision that they're not comfortable with. And
Sure.
that's not something that I would want to do either. And I know that there are obviously like some people out there that probably do, but
Right.
at the end of the day, like I always encourage everyone to just be the most authentic and truthful versions of
Right.
themselves, and that falls a lot into their personal branding and then like their target audience. I think that that's
Right.
kind of like a wonderful triad of
Well,
stuff.
I think too, put yourself in the shoes of your client. We're all consumers. I
Yeah.
mean, you've bought something. We all buy things from time to time. I've been more comfortable with certain people, obviously in industries that I was not the expert.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think if you put yourself in their shoes and how would you want to be treated? How would you want to be talked to?
Hmm.
How would you want to be educated or sold or what's important to you? And put that right back into, everything else that you create around your brand, and embrace that. That's probably going to be the most appealing to those individuals you meet in the community if you would work with the type of person you are.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
I think that a lot of people are very attracted to individuals that they find are either very much like themselves, or it on the flip side, it could also be that opposites attract.
hmm.
So you never really know what type of
No.
clients that you're going to get. Like, you might find, that you're sitting at the kitchen table with someone going, "Oh my goodness,
Hmm.
it's like you're my brother."
Yeah.
Like
And,
we're,
I
we're
mean,
so alike.
it's true. I mean, you even think about when you go through sales training, you learn about personality types and
Yeah.
how to adapt and how to work with different. And that's just, I mean, a fact of life. Now, you may never be able to attract a certain type of client. Obviously, you've got the analytical type, you've got the emotional type, but sometimes you have to obviously be genuine. You have to, again, you might not be the source for all people and accept that. And, you might lose a few people over that, but that's okay. That's what makes the world go round. We're all a little bit different, unique. But if you can adapt your presentation, maybe your educational side of things can be adapted to align better with individuals and their buying habits, or some make decisions based on dollars and cents. Some make decisions based on emotions. There's a lot that goes into it. But, as somebody gets out there and gets more experience, you kind of learn how to adapt to work with those personality types. And that's, maybe later on down the road, but that can help in adding to success.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it just comes down to knowing who you are as a person, knowing who your customer is, understanding their needs, and really truly actively listening to their needs as well.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
you're going to get more out of that client, and they're going to continue to purchase from you and continue to refer other people to you
Right.
just based on their interaction with you. And if it was a very pleasant experience, you're going to find more referrals coming in from
Oh
those
yeah.
individuals.
Well, let's face it, if somebody's being listened to, then they feel you may legitimately care.
Yes.
And if you're coming to them with a solution, it may even be based on what they told you their problem is. I think many salespeople, and maybe it's just out of nervousness, they may overtalk. They don't ask enough questions. They don't truly listen. They've already kind of got their presentation. Everything is planned out, what's coming next, what they're going to say. And people can read that.
Yeah.
They see that. And, just be careful. And maybe it takes some time to be comfortable. Maybe, again, it's more out of nervousness. But I would say just trying to be as natural as possible, listen to people.
Yeah.
Ask questions.
Hmm.
And then really do the best job you can at finding a true solution
Hmm.
to the problems and the things that they've brought up. Be a true educator. Care about the job you do and the outcome and how they feel about it. Because again, not only is that going to speak to the level of success you'll have with them, but will you maintain that client?
Yeah.
Will they become a future client for other products and needs? Will they refer you to friends and family? All of that factors in.
Yes, I agree.
Well, there's a lot. I think we've kind of strayed from like your general, like, what does it take to become an insurance agent?
Yeah.
We've gone down a couple rabbit holes here.
I agree, but
Um,
I think it's all really good important stuff to touch on, because I think that there are a lot of things that a lot of people don't consider when they first try to start in a new industry or maybe like a new business. There are all these things where they just get like really excited and really impulsive over some
mhm.
stuff, and they're just not really thinking like long term. And granted, I know that there are some people out there that are just like, hey, I just need to do this for like a short period of time just to get myself through some like hard times, and I can do this. And then there are other people that are just sort of like, I'm just going to do this part time for a while until something better comes along, but then they fall in love with the industry. So
Mhm.
I think that a lot of it just comes down to, who are you? Do you have the willingness to put the effort needed into this career path, and doing it for what I would consider to be, like, in my opinion, the right quote unquote reasons?
Mhm.
Because I obviously we're all out here to make money and to, like, support our livelihoods, like, and have families and go do things with our lives and make a living and whatnot. But I know that there are a lot of people that will pick certain positions and certain jobs based solely on a salary, and
Mhm.
then they become like married to their jobs, and then they're not
Mhm.
able to really devote any other of their time and energy to anything outside of their job. So in my opinion, I guess my advice would be to someone who's wanting to start out in insurance is to don't just do it for the money, because you're going to lose, like, if your only passion for this business is the money and the paycheck, you're not really going to be doing it for the right reasons, because you're just going to run into so many different roadblocks. And if you're not truly passionate about it, that's when you're kind of just going to end up giving up, is
Mhm.
because you're not truly passionate about helping others and doing things in a way that brings, like, I guess, a good energy to the world. I don't know what else to
Yeah, I
call
mean,
it.
I would say, just find what drives you.
Yeah.
What is it that motivates you to get up in the morning?
Yeah.
If we're just stepping back and speaking purely from, uh, a career opportunity, what motivates you?
Yeah.
I know individuals who have tried insurance, friends of mine who've tried in years past. They're very successful in other fields now,
Hmm.
but insurance just was not their path.
Yeah.
They were never going to find the enjoyment. They not enjoy the process. It was just not something that motivated them to get up. Then it's the wrong field, the wrong industry. Go find something that gives you that feeling
Yeah.
and that you can be excited about and be passionate about. If it can be insurance, what side of insurance? There's so many different facets even to insurance. There's so many opportunities that could stem from just starting off as an agent.
Yeah.
There's so many different positions and within divisions of organizations like ours, these insurance companies. So it can be a great career, even if it's not your perfect career. If you see the opportunity in getting the education and getting the experience, what it could lead to, maybe it's worthwhile or maybe it's not. So, but yeah, I would say more so, is it something you can get up every day and put everything you've got into it?
Hmm.
Then you don't always have to. I mean, insurance, I can't imagine, has ever been anyone's childhood dream.
Right.
Let's
Yeah.
face it. I mean, we all had different.
Astronaut, fireman, insurance agent.
Yeah, I mean, and let's be realistic about that. It is a great, industry.
Yeah.
There's tremendous opportunities, including financially. But if it's something you can see yourself getting up and doing every single
Yeah.
day, then I say go for it. If it's not, then, maybe it's a stepping stone to something else, or maybe it's just not the right industry, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
So just be honest with yourself too.
I agree. Yeah, I feel like especially a lot of people that are around, I guess like I would say like around my age, anywhere between the ages of 27 all the way up to like maybe 35, maybe almost 40. So I guess in that phrase, like the millennial generation,
Hmm.
like a lot of us were taught and told that like, okay, you have to graduate from high school and then you have to go get a 4-year degree in order for you to get a nice job and be able to get a nice salary and then, buy a house and then work for 40, 50 years, retire to Florida and then pass on,
Hmm.
and I think that so many of us were fed this process of life for so long, and it's gotten to a point now too where there are so many people like around in this generation that have realized, okay, I don't need to stick to this plan. I didn't necessarily have to go to school for 4 years in order to have a fulfilling career. I
Hmm.
mean, whether it be in sales, insurance, even just like a trade or like
Hmm.
skilled trade. There are so many different things that we as people had been fed for so long that like, oh, this is the path to success. Like, oh, you have to do this in order to succeed. Oh, you have to do this in order to have like a good life. But it's not like that anymore. And I think that being able to really embrace what the world has to offer and how many opportunities there are and how many opportunities there are to even just like help people within this industry. I always thought when I was younger, I was like, whatever it is that I want to do with my life, I want to help people. And whether that was with being here with IAD and really just like helping agents, come to find their true like business self and helping them to expand their businesses, or whether that was helping people even in like freelancing business, like trying to find the true beauty within themselves and
Hmm.
not feeling so, I guess a good term to use would be just like body dysmorphic. There's so many people that experience a lot of body dysmorphia, and one of my goals personally is just to help people understand that you and your body, that is just a shell for
Hmm.
that houses your soul, like in being able to look at yourself in every phase of your life, being able to relate, okay, what was going on in my life at this time? Things were really good. I was really healthy. I was eating 3 meals a day. I was
Hmm.
exercising frequently. And then there are some other times in your life where it's just like, okay, things were kind of down, like I wasn't eating well. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't doing all this, that, and the other. And maybe I'd put on 15, 20 pounds, and it's like we all go through these ebbs and flows of our lives the same way that people do in their business. There's going to be those healthy years where, your business is getting those 3 meals a day and it's getting lots of workout and, you're doing really well financially.
Hmm.
And then there might be some other years too where it's like, okay, we were slacking a little bit. We ate a little bit too much Taco Bell and we didn't do as great financially.
Hmm.
But being able to get back on that bandwagon is, I
Hmm.
think, what is a true path to success.
Okay. I wasn't sure how you're going to bring that one back around, but that's fine. Yeah, yeah. I guess you
I tried
can.
to circle
I
back
get
as
you can
best I
stretch it
could.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, sure, sure. We'll go with that.
Okay, well, but yeah, that's all I really have
Let's
here.
see
So
what.
if you are looking to get started in insurance and you are interested with finding an industry partner, we here at Insurance Advisors Direct would love to have you. You can find us online at www.iadbrokerage.com. You can also call us toll free 1-800-381-0977. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media. We are on Facebook. We are also on YouTube, as well as LinkedIn and TikTok. And so, thank you so much to everybody for joining us for the Direct Insurance Podcast. Thank you again so much to my wonderful guest here, Jason. I
Thank you.
hope that you had a good
Thanks for
time.
having me. Absolutely. No, I look forward to the next ones.
Good, perfect. Well, thanks, guys. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and we will see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye now.